And we are back. Thank you all so much for your patience. We have our next game on stream, and it's going to be Hoothoot Recruits. I actually like that. What's that? That rolls together nicely. And they're going to be playing against vectorQry. vectorQry, I know, is a team that we've seen a good amount of times in Tristrike Tuesdays, looking to make a name for themselves yet again. Looking at a couple of the scores that these teams have kind of had in their first game, it looks like Hoothoot Recruits actually went 2-1 in their first, and vectorQry doesn't seem like they were nearly as fortunate. But, I mean, that doesn't mean that this is going to just be a clear cut kind of match going on for these two. Yeah, vectorQry
will be looking for something to prove here. They'll be
Yeah.
looking of, we're not gonna go down easy kind of vibe. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But I guess we'll see.
That said, I am aware that vectorQry definitely had the harder seed. But yeah, we're just going to have to see how this kind of plays out as we're going to be heading into Mahi Mahi Resort for this game of Splat Zones. This is a really tight, narrow, there's a very little space to play in this stage, isn't there?
Yeah, it's very difficult for movement, especially if they have kind of an AoE weapon like a Dread or an Explo. That kind of thing. It's going to be very difficult for your opponents to kind of just get around and get some pain on the map without overcommitting and getting picked off.
Yeah, it can be very, very difficult to find your foothold in a stage like this. But I do know both teams have a couple of decent options that they might be bringing in. And of course, we do have the heavy Eddy Splat Lane, which is becoming a lot more meta. Oh, and just like you were saying, we've got an Explosher stepping into the field alongside a Tentabrella Splatter Shot and a Zimmy. And then on the
a side of piece as well, which is very interesting. I don't see that on this map very much.
Yeah, it is an interesting pick. I'm curious to see how this is going to kind of play out. And then, of course, yeah, we've got the Decavitator Charcoal Dried Rainer, which was brought up, and then we've got Tentabrella with another heavy edit splat lane for the Tacticooler.
I just realized not running a cooler.
Yeah,
going to be a heavy disadvantage. You'd think for the most part, right?
You'd think that, but that also means that they have one other special they can use to kind of synergize and work with the team. So if used well, they can actually stagger them out and provide a lot more pressure and overall more danger. Trying to set something up with the Tentabrella, making the call to jump away, just realizing that they were in a very difficult position and didn't want to risk it getting splatted and leaving their team in a much weaker state, especially with how important the Tentabrella's defenses can be in winning certain team fights.
They just can't get a foothold in this game at all. Just a nice simple lockout here for Hoothoot Recruits. The Tent trying to get some pain on his own, but the Dread intercepting, and that's already game 1 down.
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy first game going to Hoothoot Recruits' favor. Really setting the tone for what we might be seeing going forward.
Yeah, the comp for, I think it was vectorQry is very interesting. I think it was Tent and Expo, very slow comp for such a fast-paced mode. I get it, you have heavy defense, you have the Expo for AoE, but are they going to really combo that well when the other teams can move around so quickly and get so much pain on the floor?
The hard thing about using the Explosher as well, it can be really good in Mahi Mahi Resort, but the hard part of using Explosher well is you need a lot of chip damage to make it work, because Explosher has two damage ranges it can do. It can do 45 damage if it's just the splash, or 35 if it's just a splash. The body is 45.
Mm-hmm.
And the two combined brings it up to 90 or so. So it's Oh no, it's 55 and 45. Or 55 and 35. There we go. So if you get a direct hit, that almost takes an opponent out, but they need to have some damage for that to truly work. Which is why a lot of Exploshers go with the Rainmaker, because then they can kind of be their own support. But if they don't have that, then it's a situation of you need weapons that are doing just that one single hit, just a hit from anything to make it work. And if you don't have a loadout kit that does that, then the Explosher will oftentimes just like hit the opponent once and then die.
Moving into game 2 here, it's a split zone map. I don't know how you feel about those. I can't stand them as a concept.
They're very interesting. They can be really challenging. There's a lot of situations where a match will just stagnate because of how hard it is to take control of both. It really focuses on the PvP aspect of this, where you can't really just focus on outpainting, because as soon as you turn your attention to one zone, the other one's perfectly exposed. So you have to be winning these exchanges, these fights, to be able to make things work. We've got the Explosher coming in again. I personally love the Explosher. It always makes me happy to see it out on the field. But I'm not sure if this is going to be the right place, where you have to be a little more aggressive and proactive with your plays here. And the Explosher can be really difficult to make that work, especially with how costly it is to utilize it just as a weapon.
I think Explosher is fine, because they do have the decav up and running. As well as the T-Tech, which can also, it's a general shooter, so it's going to be able to put a lot of the work in.
Indeed, it looks like it is definitely doing that, as vectorQry has managed a very strong push, taken control of the field. We managed to get that Tent Umbrella out of the way with that Zimmy, and they're just fighting, or Vector's just fighting to try to slow them down, hold them back as much as possible. With a couple of players knocked out, it's time for Hoothoot to make a counter push, but they're not really finding the ground to really make this strong fight yet. They need to get a trade or two in their favor.
Yeah, we're talking about that stagnant zone again. It took them a while to cap, because they struggled to reach around both sides to get the cap earlier, and just kind of got stuck in a stalemate for a quick second there. But able to get a few points down, catching up a little bit. But again, that zone once again stagnating. It's vectorQry looks to try and push and retake here to start moving that penalty downwards. And they get just that.
Indeed. This Decapitator trying to set up, trying to just reclaim the base and fight back. But a very nice movement from vectorQry to be able to safely escape. Out comes this Inkjet, but it doesn't look like it's actually gotten anything out of it, though the rest of the teammates, it did manage to play enough of a distraction that it gave a good opportunity for the rest of Hoothoot recruits to be able to make their counter push, and they are back going through that penalty and trying to set themselves up to build up this lead now that they've got control of the field.
Yeah, Decav going in with the Tent Umbrella, very smart strategy there, trying to get a cheeky little direct through the tent shield. Doesn't quite pay off, and gets caught out. vectorQry again looking to try and retake here, and try and keep this match a little closer.
The Explosher throwing out that Rainmaker. It is painting a huge amount of turf, though it's not going to be enough to really allow them to hold control, especially since I think the Explosher got pushed back at some point. They were trying to make some kind of effort, but just too much pressure coming in from Hoothoot recruits denied them of that opportunity. And now with a wipeout, we're in a very difficult place for vectorQry, as they have to regather their footing, fight back as Hoothoot is now in their base to be able to just try to get that base, or those zones back in their control.
Yeah, that Inkjet, it might not be getting picks, but it's causing a little bit of chaos for vectorQry, as it, gets a couple people just looking towards it instead of on the picks or on the objective where they need to be.
Yeah.
And Hoothoot recruit, you're looking to close this, not only the game, but the set out here, and that's going to be it.
I'll keep in mind, this isn't a best of 3. This is play 3 games. Right. We'll do the best ofs in a bit, but right now it's just play our games.
Yes. Either way, very good win for Who Recruits. Going to be going at least 2-1 here, which is always a nice feeling. To not have to worry too much about game 3. Sure, the win is nice, but I'm sure they can pat themselves on their back. vectorQry need to look to try and get a momentum shift. Because I'll be honest, I don't think their weapons are clicking. I think it would be the best way to put it. They're just kind of struggling to get a foot on the ground. Sure, they got a little bit of space there, but one special and it turns a couple heads, and then they seem to just lose control of mid.
I love the Explosher. I think it's a great weapon, but seeing that Decapitator coming in and popping Inkjet, they might need a different weapon to just contend with that. The Sniper Raider might be a great choice. A Heavy Edit would help. Just something with the range.
That's
and
another thing.
better
vectorQry
design
has
to
been
punish
coolerless
aerial
this
combat.
entire time. They've had no cooler both these games.
Yeah.
Which is a big detriment. Like, yeah, you can, but is it really worth it on a game as quick as Zones? On a game mode as quick as Zones, sorry?
Like, if you can make it work, there is a lot of power that can come from having 4 different specials. But the big strength of Tacticooler is just it helps the weapon's base elements play so much better. And then on top of that, the super jumps, when you've learned how to super jump well, it is so effective where you go just a little too aggressive. And as long as you're a player who's quick to recognize, I'm out of line, you're already back with your teammates because it takes like a second to super jump when you've got the Tacticooler active. It's not as fun of a super as all the others, but it is very important, very essential for competitive play.
And that's why all the top players use it, unfortunately. But
heading into game 3 of these two teams, vectorQry fighting to try to claim the center hold. We've got the Zimmy out here. We got the little mini Splatling. It does so much paint output, and we've got this Stamper out here trying to rush through, but it's just not enough as the Inkback stops all pushes and just gives Hoothoot a very clean opportunity to make it count, or just to reclaim the entire base and hold down this fort.
Yeah, you see vectorQry ditching the tent, I think the Explo completely, and going for a very much more aggressive comp, which I think is what they needed. You were right about getting something to contend with the Jet.
I don't think they picked anything to contend Jet.
They've got the Pro, which can reach, I'm pretty sure. But again, they're just not finding any ground, no footing as 2 go down for vectorQry here.
I mean, on top of that, aside from the Splatling, they don't really have a high paint output. They've got some decent weapons, but just the way Hoothoot's going is, as soon as you give Hoothoot an inch, they've painted a mile. And it's just making it that much more difficult for vectorQry to find the room they're looking for to be able to make this fight work.
Yeah, Hoothoot Recruit, I saw at the end there, they had both a Headed and a Dread Ringer. So they were able to just deny, like, an absolute load of space for vectorQry to try and come into. And yeah, not a whole load of paint output, or really range either to contest with either of those weapons.
Indeed, indeed. It just... Yeah, vectorQry played it really well. Unfortunately, that third game also, they didn't have a Tacticooler. I don't know how much it would have helped in that situation. It just seems like Hoothoot had the map down a lot more. The weapon synergy build and plays were just a lot more effective. That opening gambit with the Inkback was a huge tempo shift in Hoothoot Recruiter's advantage. And then having the Ink Jet come in on the side just to keep that pressure going, even though a couple were already down, just meant that Hoothoot pretty much had vectorQry completely locked into the corner. And from there, it was too much time to be able to fight out and reclaim anything to get a chance at claiming the base.
Yeah, I think if you have vectorQry, you just simply have to say that it was a rough set. Um, Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, go again next round, and
Yeah.
just keep your heads up, because I'm pretty sure I've seen these guys play. I'm pretty sure I've played against them before, and they can be a decent team. And I'm hoping they can show that today and show everyone what they're actually made of.
Indeed. We'll have to see if that happens in a bit, but right now we are going to take a quick break as we gear ourselves up for the last match of Block 1. We'll be right back.